Please.
Perfect. All right. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to episode 3
Hello, welcome back.
of the i.B.Artin podcast.
Podcast.
This is why I need breakfast.
Maybe.
I didn't eat breakfast this morning, guys. But anyway, welcome back to the i.B.Artin podcast. Oh,
Twice.
my God.
Twice.
Oh, my goodness. Welcome back to the i.B.Artin podcast.
Period.
There we go.
You got
It's
it.
Mars and Kira.
Hello.
Back with another episode for you guys. We're super excited, as always, to be chopping it up with y'all. So,
Yeah. So, as you know, we're here to talk about the arts. The
arts.
Because we be artin.
Because we be artin.
We be artin. Just a little recap. If you tuned in last week, you already know. We kind of introduced the arts and unpacking like our identities in relation to that, and just some of our identity issues that rise when we talk about the art that we practice. Also, shout out to Kyle for being a special guest. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Kyle.
Appreciate you, bro.
But yeah, all right. But anyway, so moving into today, Mars and I, we always get together before to plan out our episodes and what we want to talk about. And as we were in discussion, we realized that representation is a really big thing in our lives, and I think in the lives of every Black person, you know,
For sure.
in the arts, when it comes to trying to achieve your goals and dreams in the field. You know, we really think that it's important that you have someone doing the thing that you want to do. That way you know that it's possible. And so as we were sharing, we realized that in our own personal experiences, we, you know, I kind of had a lot of trouble when it came to, or at least I know I did, like feeling as if this is something that I could really do, just because I didn't see a lot of people doing the thing, you know, doing dance in the way that I wanted to. And so, yeah, we just wanted to unpack that a little bit, and we're going to actually break this up into 3 parts. We're going to start by talking about just our personal experience, you know, growing up, if there was representation, if there wasn't, you know, in the communities that we were in. Then we'll go into what representation looks like in our current field. So me with dance and Mars with music. And then we're going to talk about representation in academia. Mars and I are clearly both in grad school, and we have a passion for education just as we do for the arts. And it's important to shed light onto what the spaces that we look like, what representation looks like in the spaces that we're in now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so let's just like
Let's
go
get
ahead
into
and
it.
dive into it. Yeah, I think Mars, do you want to start us off?
Yeah,
with,
for sure.
you know, your background and everything.
Yeah. So, as I've mentioned before in like previous episodes, our previous 2 episodes, you know, my background is in violin. Background is in violin. Listen, we all got a glitch.
Right.
No, but my background is in violin. I remember seeing it for the first time when I was like 2 in church, and I was like, oh, I want to play that. And it just happened to be like a family friend that was playing. And, you know, when I was a little bit older and was getting close to like being able to play it in school, my mom was like, sure, we'll start you. So I started at 9. And of course, my first violin teacher, she was Black, because this was the family friend in the church from before. And so she was teaching me how to play the violin about a year before I started in school. I think I talked about this last episode as well. So I won't get into that too much. But when I did start school, it was myself and I want to say one other little Black girl that was also playing the violin. She eventually stopped once we were in middle school. Our teacher during that time was a white man. Shout out to him. He was great.
Shout out. He taught me what I needed to.
He did. He was cool. He was great. You know, he's from Louisiana. Love him so much. He used to bring us gumbo. So, I mean, I can't.
Ooh.
And his gumbo was good. His gumbo was good.
I love gumbo.
After every performance, listen, I couldn't complain.
That's
and
such a
I wasn't.
vibe.
It was. Oh, my God.
As a white man making gumbo.
And it was good.
And it was good.
It was good. Ooh. Shout out to him, really. In the event that he listens to this, good on you, man. No, but she had I think she quit roughly around middle school. And then in middle school, because a whole bunch of elementary schools merging together in middle school, so like more students, new students to me. There was one other girl, I want to say she was mixed as well, and she also played the violin. She stopped after middle school. I also didn't go to school with them after high school, so there was also that. At that point, I was at the performing arts high school.
Yeah.
So there, yeah, it was just me in that orchestra. I was the only black girl in that high school.
Did you feel as if, let me start by saying this. I know that once I got to college, that was when I started to really realize how me being the only one started affecting me mentally and emotionally. So I'm curious if at that age, if it had like a big impact on you emotionally, or was it just like, oh, okay, this is something that I noticed, and then, but let's just keep pushing.
I definitely think it impacted me a little bit. Definitely before high school. It impacted me definitely in middle school. Because it was really just me, but I didn't think too much of it because when I was in my like own middle school, I was just worried about being the best.
Yeah.
That's what I cared about.
Yeah, your mindset's different.
My mindset was totally, I was like, I just want to be better than
Right.
all these other kids. And so there was like maybe one other girl, her and I, we were kind of tit for tat, but we were cool for the most part. Side eye. Yeah, we were cool for the most part. No qualms. But like when we'd have, all county orchestra, and that's, all the schools in my county, we're all auditioning. There, I definitely remember like the first time going into my first audition for it and preparing for it. I was like, okay, this is what's coming from the entire county. And I think there was maybe one or two other black girls.
Wow, in the whole county.
Yeah, and that's in general, not even just for violin.
Wow.
And there was, I want to say, close to 50 of us, if not more. And it was myself and maybe two other black girls.
Goodness.
I still stay in touch with one of them, fun fact. But yeah, I definitely noticed there, and it was a little intimidating. Actually, I remember I was playing in front of strangers, so that was terrifying alone. But to also just be the only one that looked like me, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's when it made me realize, I was like, oh, this isn't just my school, because there was another school or another two schools that were predominantly, yes, they were still predominantly white, but they had a larger black population.
Yeah.
So to see that even then, it was still such a small amount, I was like, oh, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, this is an issue.
This is weird.
Beyond just my school. Like, maybe this is a systematic thing.
Yeah, that's when I realized, I was like, oh, this is beyond me. This is beyond me. But in high school, going into performing arts high school, or really arts school, because we also had like visual arts, creative writing. But going into that, and you have to, even though it was public, you have to audition to get in. And that's how
mine was. Yeah. I didn't know you went to performing arts high school.
I feel like we talked about this in like passing, but like it's something you forget from me.
It was in Maryland, or was it in New York?
No, in Maryland.
Oh, I had no idea.
Girl, yeah, I didn't come to New York till undergrad.
Wow.
Fun fact.
Oh my gosh, we're like alike. We're like the same.
Oh my god, twinsies. No, but yeah, once I went there, like I was the only one in the strings department, not the music department, but like the orchestra. It was just me. Everybody else was white. Well, there was one Latino, but everybody else. Oh, my bad. No, okay. So there's one Latina, and then eventually two sisters. They were a combination of things.
Okay.
But I want to say the gist of it was East Asian and Latina. So that's also a combo.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was them two. They were great. Loved them.
But still, you were the only black.
I was the
person
only
of color.
Black person, period, in the orchestra. There was already so few of us at that school in general, but like even by the time I was a senior, I was still the only black girl. At no point when we got the incoming freshmen, and as they moved up, there weren't any others. And I didn't see another one until I went back to teach a little bit, when I was helping out my former orchestra director. He's retired now. When I went back to, I think you and I were talking about this earlier too, when I went back to teach, and there was a freshman, she was black, and I was like, oh, that's nice to see. But it was also just her. I don't recall seeing anyone in the cello section, in the violas. It was just her. And I'm like, huh, interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like you immediately start to look back on your experience and be like, oh my gosh, I know what I felt like when I was the only one. So now that I'm out of it, I'm seeing someone else going through the same thing that I went through. It's like, oh, like your heart automatically just
goes
starts
out.
to feel for them. And yeah.
And so I definitely remember, like, and she was struggling a little bit. And I remember when I was having like a little bit of a sectional with the because I had the freshman and sophomore violins. Because, you know, it's December, they're working on the winter music, specifically Oh Holy Night. And the arrangement it's the same arrangement that he'd been playing since the school opened, like 15, 16 years ago.
So Oh Holy Night.
Child.
Oh Holy Night.
It was Oh Holy Night, and that arrangement for the strings is heinous. The original one, which we were playing when I was, there. However, he didn't start simplifying it until I was a junior, because you know what? I have qualms about it. I have feelings. I have feelings, so we're not going to get into them.
Right.
But he did simplify it for them. And even then, because of COVID, the incoming freshmen and sophomores were significantly behind. And so I felt myself really, of course I wanted to like help them, and I was gravitating towards all of them. I definitely recall gravitating to her a little bit more and being like, oh, do this, do that. I mean, she still had the tape on her fingerboard.
Yeah. And
I'm like, okay, how can I use this short amount of time that I have with them to best help them, and to especially best help her? And it was nice to be able to do that, because I did see her, improve a little bit, and she felt a little bit more comfortable.
But you were able to give her what you wish you were given, and what you had when you were
never had.
Yeah.
I was able to give her what I never had. Because when they threw us in, it was dog eat dog. Like, either you catch up to the rep, or you get left and potentially kicked out.
It's rough out there.
Ooh,
it's rough out there.
It was rough. Just to see that and be able to kind of offer that softness was really nice.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, undergrad, PWI, it's NIU. Yeah, I mean, I want to say I was definitely the only black person in the music ed department for my cohort. But I was also, there's only 2 strings people, myself and one other girl. I was the only black one. The other one, she's Latina. So we could relate in some ways, but not in a lot. And I want to say during my 4 years there, I only saw 1 or 2 other black strings people at all. And really, one was a performance major, and she played the viola. The other one, she was just taking private lessons because she played in high school. But she wasn't a performance or music major whatsoever. So it was really just the 2 of us, and we never spoke. Me and the violist, we never spoke. I would just see her around, either in a practice room when I'm heading to one, or between classes, but at no point did her and I ever speak. And that was it. And that's at NYU. Way bigger population. Still nothing.
And that actually surprises me, because you're in New York. Like,
right.
The place where everyone is. So immediately I would just make the assumption that whatever program you're in, no matter where you are in the city, it would be more diverse. But no, not at all. Should I share a little bit more?
Absolutely.
Background?
Let's hear you.
So, all right, y'all. Let's see. Where do I start? Let's start when I was a young little lad.
A little lad.
So I mentioned this last week, but I got all of my training in church. A mentor of mine, she took me under her wing, and it was really great. I never really thought about doing dance seriously, but I did know that it was fun and that I liked it. And when I was first introduced to dance, I was surrounded by people in my community, within the church. But then also when she would take me to practice at her college, I was with Black dancers. Like we were at HBCU, we were at PV. So like, I just had Black people with me. I just had Black people with me. So it was my norm, and it was great. Once I got into middle school, that was when I joined the dance department, and I went to a magnet performing arts middle school, and a high school one as well. But I think this was the first time when I realized that, oh, I'm different, but it still wasn't, there was still some kind of like barrier up that kept me from realizing that, oh, it's because of like race, like it's because of the way the country is set up and systematically, like this is why I'm going through this experience. But when you're younger, you're young, you're like innocent, like you don't really understand things fully. Sometimes it's not until you get to college when you realize, oh my gosh. So anyway, yeah, it's middle school, and it would be little things like, okay, this is how we're going to wear our hair. We're going to do a French twist for the performance, or a French braid. And I'm like, okay, I can do a French braid. And there's only like white people in the advanced class that I was in. And, I like to think that I could do a French braid and that it would look the exact same, but it definitely didn't. Like when Black people be trying to do it, it just be sticking out. Like,
it's a little bump.
The bump, and it'd be so stiff, and you'd be like, oh my gosh. But anyway, when I was in dance, and we were told to wear our hair a certain way or do this kind of thing, it was like, oh wait, like I can't do that because my hair doesn't do that. And because there weren't other Black people in the class with me, it wasn't like I could go up. I didn't feel like I had the space to go up to my teacher and explain to them why I couldn't do that, because I didn't have like that backup support, Yeah. And so, still in middle school, there came a point where it was like, oh, we're going to join studios. And all of them went to this really expensive studio. And I couldn't go to a studio. I went to my mom and I was like, oh, I want to do a studio, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, Kira, we can't do one. And I'm thinking that she doesn't want to put me in one just because she doesn't want to put me in one. But I didn't realize that there were like bigger financial things, or like, single mom of 3, like we don't really have the money to do that. But their situation is different because like the whole privilege thing. And so sure. Again, with these issues, like because I was the only Black person experiences in a group of like white friends, I didn't have that backup support to be like, oh, this is why. But so I guess it touches on representation a little bit, but basically I was just really lonely in middle school. But moving forward, once I got to high school, I was really blessed with a great community in high school. It was a very good mix of all people of all races, ethnicities, backgrounds, religions, like whatever it is. It was really great. I'm not gonna lie.
I love that for you.
In my department, my teachers were so supportive. I had a Black, there were like 2 chairs. There was a Black one and a white one, and they were just so great. They were so great. And my dance community, it felt really nice to have people in the classroom that looked like me, because I didn't have to force myself to fit in with people just for the sake of surviving and getting through, which is exactly what I did in middle school. And so now, I could just dance to dance because I had my people and other people, and we could just be one. I didn't have to focus on those other, racial barriers because they just weren't affecting me as much once I was in high school. So high school was really great. And I also still had my mentor from earlier who still gave me that support as like a Black dancer and all of that stuff. The real issues didn't come until I got to college. And so I'm from Texas. I'm from Texas. And so I'm sure it's probably it's to make the assumption that there aren't as many Black people within programs in the schools in Texas, then like that, I mean, I feel like that assumption is very valid because it's Texas. It's Texas. But anyway, I went to TCU, and I remember the first week of classes as a freshman, I cried literally like every day. Not because I was in a new environment and I was like, oh, college, I don't know how to do it. But when I went to dance, I'm in a ballet class, and I declared myself as a modern major. I'm in a ballet class. Everyone is white. I'm the only Black person. And this was the very first time when I realized that I was the actual difference in the room, because everyone is lined up perfectly. Everyone has on their leotard and tights. And then you look at the end of the bar, and it's like, oh, wait, you don't fit in with everything that's around you right now. And I could not focus the whole rest of the week. All of my classes, I was just crying. And I went to my professor who was Black, and I'm so incredibly thankful for him. Shout out to Adam McKinney, artistic director of Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, because he really saved my life when I was at TCU. Because I went into his office and I explained to him, I was like, I want to leave. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in class. You know, I don't have anyone to go through this with me. You know, I don't know what I'm striving towards, because I haven't encountered anyone that's doing the thing that I want to do. And he was like, yeah, it's so white. It was so white. And I appreciated that he was okay with breaking that like level of professionalism, I guess, and spoke to me as a real human being and as a real like Black person experiencing what it's like to be dancing in an all white environment. Because I feel like sometimes when you speak to professors or just higher ups in general, like they've really tried to keep that student teacher,
For sure.
you know, that level of professionalism, and it's hard to really get them to feel as if they can empathize with you.
Yeah.
But he immediately like dropped that barrier, and he was like, I get it. It is so white. La 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 la. And it really helped me. But anyway, that was my reality all 4 years. Like in my class of 2023, there were like 7 to 10 Black dancers in the department as a whole, but just in my class, I was the only one. So all throughout the years, I was really struggling, feeling as if dance was possible, feeling as if that this career could actually, or this want for my career could actually become a reality. And, you know, as graduation's approaching, as, you know, the time for auditioning for companies is coming up, like, it was like, oh crap, like, do I really think that I could do this? Do I really think this is possible? And I just wanted to share this little story really quick. My senior year, up until then, I had never seen Black dancers on a stage doing ballet. Never, ever, ever. Two of my teachers brought in Dance Theater of Harlem. And Dance Theater of Harlem is an all Black dance company here in New York. And I'm 22 years old, and this is my first time seeing people that look like me on a stage.
And it's just them.
I was blown away.
That's big.
It was truly transforming. Like it was amazing. And I had hung up point in ballet. I was like, I'm not doing this stuff. I was like, it doesn't work. My body does not, this big booty, it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit the aesthetic, the narratives that exist in ballet. But I saw these people on stage, and the next day I went up to my professor and I said, I will have my pointe shoes on in class. And she was like,
period.
She's like, okay, Kiki. And I was like, mm-hmm. And the classes for the rest of the semester, I like brought out my point shoes, and it was just really, really big. And now I just have this new inspiration. I'm like, oh my gosh, Black people can be ballerinas. You know, Black people can be in these amazing companies and do all of these things. And so all that goes to say is that having little to no representation all of these years really affected my ability to think that my career was possible. And sometimes it literally just takes seeing someone doing what you want to do to change your mindset and perspective when it comes to achieving that goal. So, y'all, we here today.
That definitely makes me think a little bit. Just because, like, my field wasn't specifically performance, but, like, music education. And I didn't experience having a Black educator aside from, you know, the family friend who also, she was still going through school herself. So, like, teaching me the basics, teaching me a lot of, like, the different techniques that my elementary school teacher had taught me, she was able to do. But there came a certain point where, one, she wasn't able to anymore, but also, like, what I was getting in school either was at what she could teach me or slightly below it. So, and in high school, they had a private instructor for all of us. So, like, that was something I didn't have to pay for. So, not to say I didn't need her anymore, but, like, if that was, you know, extra money that my mom could save, yeah. She can, because now I'm getting private lessons in school. But not having a formal music educator until my last year
a formal
of undergrad.
educator that looked like you.
A formal educator in general, but especially music educator that looked like me, that was Black, until my senior year of undergrad. So at that point, I was, 22? And even then, he was the interim program director for music ed. And he wasn't really teaching us anything for the last semester. It was just facilitating our conversations about our student teaching experience. So I didn't really get to learn anything from him or take anything from him. He just kind of said, hey, talk in your groups about this. So I haven't really had an educator even in the arts where they're teaching me something really until this year with the professor that we talked about. I think the first episode. And it kind of, like, makes me wonder, had I had that growing up, like, would I have strived even harder to do what it is that I was doing?
And would I've made the decision to be in grad school right now? Would I have been more motivated to just join a company?
Yeah.
Because
we had that?
Yeah.
Like, would that have changed the trajectory of our experience in relation to the arts?
Yeah.
Had we had those experiences, had that representation in our K through 12, really even K through 12 and up into our first experiences in higher ed, would that have changed for us?
Yeah. And it's so, like, when I actually give myself the time and space to think about these things, like, sometimes I get a little, like, sad, but I also get a little envious of the people that did have that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I went up to my professor in undergrad and I was asking her, I was like, what was your experience like, you know, as a Black person, Black female, trying to navigate the ballet world? And she was so straight up with me. She was like, I've always been surrounded by a Black community when it came to learning this art form. So I never really dealt with that, oh, am I fitting in? Do people think I'll be good enough? Because she was always surrounded by people that looked like her. And so the path just seemed so, like, straightforward for her. And I remember after that conversation, like, I was honestly kind of mad. Like,
it's the level of envy.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, Kara, I recognize, like, where these feelings are coming from, you know, like, you're not actually mad at this person or anything, but you're just mad at the system. Like, you're mad that for some people it looks like this and for others it looks like this. And it sucked. It sucked. But yeah, I guess now shifting the conversation a little bit, I want to also speak about, like, what do we think, what does representation look like in our field today now that we are out of the undergrad, the whole undergrad situation, now that, yes, we're in grad school, but we may return, to our field, or we never left our field, but in performing wise, we may make the decision to join a philharmonic orchestra or join a company. And so do you feel that representation has gotten better in the world today, or worse? Like, what do you think?
It definitely depends, because I would say that the representation is more present now, but I also want to lean away from saying that, because I think the access to social media has just made it more, I guess, obvious of how many of us are actually in this field. So like specifically as a string player, because of my access to social media, I've become more aware of the professional, Black musicians, Black string players specifically, that are in this world. Like, I can quickly reference two. You may or may not know the duo Black Violin.
I do not know, but
okay.
I will look them up.
No, they've gotten pretty big over the last few years or so. They're both Black violinists. They're Black men, which is also incredibly rare to see. Like, first of all, it's already rare to see just a Black violinist, period. But when you do, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be
old
a woman.
White man?
No. Specifically for Black violinists.
Got it.
Specifically for Black violinists, if you do see one, they're likely going to be a woman or feminine presenting. So it's incredibly rare to see Black men specifically playing the violin, because I feel like when I see Black men in strings, you're going to see them on the bigger instruments like a cello or the double bass, upright bass. So to actually see them on a smaller instrument that's typically been categorized as like dainty and girly, is so warming.
That's so interesting.
It's so warming, and they're so amazing. Yeah. First of all, they're so great. So when I discovered, well, I want to say it was like one of my mom's friends who just saw them, and they messaged me about it on Facebook. They like sent it to me years ago, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. But also, I mean, there's only, at the time I was just like, I'm literally just trying to make it through this jury, please. I want to see this, but I don't want to see this right now.
Yeah.
But no, I was only grateful to have seen that. And that was only through social media, because, I mean, there really weren't like broadcast networks. We didn't do cable once we hit a certain age. So I was just like, I'm not seeing this. But her, or she's known on Instagram as Afro Violinist, but her name is Melissa White. She is both a professional violinist, but she's also an academic. So like,
ooh, that's important.
That is, she's an academic.
We're gonna put a pin in that.
We are. I'm not gonna go into too much about her, other than that, I found her on Instagram and I was like, oh my God, she's so good. She's actively performing and doing, guest solos, all of these things. And she's also an adjunct at a few schools.
She's doing both.
She's doing both, and she's making it work. And now she adjuncts at NYU in the music department. I'm not salty. It's fine. She came the year after I graduated.
Yeah.
Sigh. But it's fine though. It's fine.
It is fine.
It is. It's so fine.
We're thankful that the other people.
Yeah. What other people?
Right.
Right. What other people? I mean, I'm sure there's more now, but even what other people?
Right.
No. Whoever gets to study with her, I hope you're lucky.
I'm dead.
Yeah, I want to make sure they know that.
I'm jealous of you.
For sure. Like, no beef with the previous instructor. Again, love her down. She really supported me. But would I have taken a semester away to study under her had she been there, under Melissa, while she was, at NYU?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Had she been there while I was there?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would have taken away one semester.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to your point of like social media.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
And it's interesting when you actually, when you have lived the shift.
Oh God.
You know, like I feel like, you know, when I have like kids down the line, I can be like, oh, I remember when this wasn't a thing.
No, yeah.
You know, like being able to say that statement, you know, like back in the day, because there actually was a back in the day
for us, which is nuts.
Yeah, when social media wasn't as prevalent, you know, you didn't see a lot of people that looked like you. And I actually remember, I think I was in high school. I think it was like freshman, sophomore year.
Yeah.
I unfollowed every single dance account that I was subscribed to, because I was pissed off. I was mad that I did not see anybody that looked like me.
Fair.
You know, it was all these people doing these really cool like tricks and everything. But I was like, oh, but I can't do that.
Right.
I can't do that. And it was so toxic for me. And I was like, unfollow. And anytime like my dancer friends would like speak about these accounts, like, oh, did you see that? Did you see that? And I was like, no. No.
I did not.
I didn't. And I told them, I was like, I unfollowed them because this is not reflective of the actual world that we live in today
at all.
And it pissed me off, like flat out. And so I did the shift once I got into not high school. Oh girl, what's it called? Undergrad, girl. Thank you, girl. Mm-hmm. Thank you, girl. But once I got into undergrad, like, you know, when I refollowed the accounts, you know,
right.
You know, I was more woke that, you know, there were people in the world that looked like me, like Misty Copeland, and like, you know, I was more aware of Dance Theater of Harlem artists. Like I was like, oh, okay, like maybe this thing is possible, you know. But again, it just goes back to social media, like, and how it has really been the thing that has allowed more dancers of color to realize that this thing is possible for them.
Yeah. It's been a driving force, really.
Yeah. But I also do want to make sure that I acknowledge how not everyone has access to social media too.
Oh, for sure.
Not everyone has access to a phone, you know, to all of these things. And so there's still that bigger issue of how can we really inspire the young to feel as if like their dreams are possible, you know, how can the representation in our fields be so just magnificently juicy and dense to where people don't need to look up a person of color that's in the field that they want to, but it's their teacher. You know, there's multiple people on faculty. There's multiple touring companies that are coming to these cities, and they, you know, they go to see the show and they immediately see people that look like them on stage. Like, I think that's the end goal. I know for myself, when it comes to companies, it's a little conflicting. And Mars and I were talking about this right before we started recording, but I mentioned how a person should not have to give up their dream of dancing with a specific company just because there aren't people that look like them in that company, and because they just are immediately in the state of, oh, I'm going to be alone during all of this. You know, it's just going to be me. And Mars made a really good comparison. It's like making the choice between going to HBCU versus a PWI. Like,
yeah, that's how it feels.
Yeah, like I didn't choose to go to HBCU, not because I don't like my community and I don't want to go to school with them. No, but it's because when it comes to my actual career, like going to this dance program at TCU and pretty much all, you know, white schools, like their technical pre-professional dance programs are really good. Like that's where you need to go. Like I went because of my career, not because of my community. And I don't think people should have to face that choice, you know, like that really sucked, because it then put me in the position of me being teased for going to PWI. Like people, you know, that resurfacing of the word Oreo, like, oh, you're black on the outside, but you're white. You're really white because you chose to go to this school. And I'm like, can you stop pressing me, bro? Because like, you don't know why I made this choice, first of all, but also you don't know what I'm experiencing. You don't know the emotions that I'm dealing with. Like, you think that I wanted to not go to a school that was made for my community. Like, you think that I wanted to choose being the only black person in my class and having to experience, you know, all of the emotions that come with that. Like,
yeah. Like, I think people who we're getting a little off topic, but I'm gonna say this real quick before we get back on.
It's just also juicy, and it's all connected. So,
but
go
I will say that those who, do chastise about those of us who've made the choice of going to a PWI over at HBCU, don't also take into account that, like, 9 times out of 10, we already grappled with having to choose not our community for the sake of our career or financial reasons. But we've also grappled with the fact of, like, I know I'm going to suffer. I know I'm going to suffer. And they, like, don't take that into account. It's like, bro, you on my back? Guess what? I'm on my back.
Right.
Like, there's nothing you can say that's worse than what I've said to myself.
Yeah. And it's like, how about you just support me during this
make me feel better
time?
Jesus.
Make me feel better versus making me feel worse about the fact that I chose to go to school with white people. Like,
and it's not even the fact that, like, we're choosing to go to school with white people. It's specifically the fact that we're choosing to be the only one that looks like us, already 9 times out of 10 knowing what that feels like, and choosing to do it anyway for a number of reasons. Like, for me, one, I'm getting a scholarship, whereas the HBCU, they didn't want to give me nothing.
Right. Give me nothing. Because I would have been paying more.
I would have been in debt, baby. I would have been in debt. I would not be here. I would be in debt.
Right.
I would have been in debt. Not to say I'm not in debt now, but coming out of NYU with only $15K in student loans,
right?
Mind you, their tuition is nuts.
Yeah,
but
you would have been in more debt if you had chose to go.
They basically gave me a full ride.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm gonna choose the full ride, baby.
Right.
I'm gonna choose the full ride.
Straight up.
Like, unless you want to cough up that money for me, that's what I have to choose.
Right.
In order to do the art that I'm doing. Because are there other music education programs? Yes. But also, and we're going to get into this in another.
There's so much.
It ties into a lot of things.
Because
I don't think I realize how hard it is for us to not get into some of our other topics.
And this is why we started the podcast, because this is what our first conversation was like in the library. We were just talking about one thing and then it went to another. But we gonna get let's recenter,
let's
cap it now.
We'll gonna refocus.
Bring back the
y'all got a taste.
Conversation of education and PWI HBCU.
Yeah.
That whole thing. But anyway, in a dance world today,
back to representation
in the field.
Find it.
With social, find it, right?
Find it.
Social media is a thing. Social media has helped the both of us
for sure.
And it has even I started a YouTube channel. It has seeing more people, and seeing how social media has been able to reach more people. It has inspired me to use social media more to do the same thing, especially for people in my community. Maybe they're not aware of, say, this person, but because I am aware of this person, I am the segue or the middleman for that person to then become aware. I hope I'm saying, does that make sense?
I think it makes sense.
Does that make sense?
I get you.
If I could draw it out, you would get it. But this is the podcast, so you can't really see.
I don't know. See the YouTube.
See the YouTube. Yeah, go ahead, click that link. But yeah, I'm grateful for social media, and I'm thankful that oh girl, I know what we was talking about, how you shouldn't feel as if you should have to choose between two companies.
Oh, we really got off track,
girl. I know, girl. Oh, but we're back.
We found it.
We're back. And so I think that it's important that companies integrate more.
For sure.
Integrate more. And I'm happy that the Black artists that are within these companies like ABT and NYCB, that they are making it a mission to use social media to bring more attention to the fact that they are the only one, or they are one out of, say, 5 in the company of 100-something dancers, and just really bringing that attention to these white dominant companies in order to help bring about awareness and hopefully lead to more integration of more colors, more people of color. No.
No, yeah,
We got
so
so off
now
topic.
now it's my turn a little bit to say, like, I'm a little bit jealous of that though, because I feel like based off of what you were just saying,
Mm.
dance companies are making a little bit more of an effort to be more inclusive and be genuinely more diverse, but still there's this kind of barrier within the music world, but specifically like the classical music world. Because let's be real, black musicians have always been a thing. That's not new. They've always been around, and you can name a bunch off the top of my head now, but those are on popular instruments. And when I say popular instruments, my musicians might most likely understand what I'm saying, but for those who aren't musicians or have a music background, there's a difference between well-known instruments that are literally the word popular and like pop instruments for music. So like when I think pop instrument, I think guitar, electric guitar or electric bass. I think piano, or if you're a singer, like I would consider being a singer a pop instrument.
Yeah.
Because that's also an assumption for if you're black and you're in music. I immediately get, oh, are you a singer? No, actually, no. But then you also see black people, especially with band-based instruments, so trumpet, saxophone. You might get a flute in there. You might get a French horn.
I feel like, let me know if this is true or not, but
What's
I
up?
feel like when people think black musician, they think jazz.
For sure.
They
And
automatically
they think
place
jazz,
them
they think band.
into that category.
For sure. That's typically it. They'll think, oh, if I say no to being a singer, they're going to think, oh, do you play a band instrument? And I'm like, also, no. Like the level of surprise that I get every time I say,
I'm a
oh,
black
I'm a violinist.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay. And then I get snaps. And
Yeah,
do your
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
girl. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right.
I understand the surprise, and to an extent, I appreciate it. Can I say it's a little annoying? Yeah, because it's like, are we really that uncommon? But the answer is yes. Yes, we are. Like, I used to substitute coach for a youth orchestra here in New York City, through my mentor teacher from student teaching. Shout out to him. But he's the director of that youth orchestra, and this is the advanced section that he's conducting himself. And there was black cellist boy. Oh, okay. Black cellist. He's amazing. All of his siblings, he himself and his siblings, his younger siblings, they all play string instruments, and they're all advanced. And it's their whole family. I mean, not their parents, but their parents got all of them into it. And so the fact that that was even a thing, and they're so good. And he, like, specifically that cello player, I recall him being a little bit cocky about it. And I loved it. I was here for it. And this also makes me think about one of the other actual sectional coaches before that youth orchestra. She's also black. She's an educator here in New York City. Shout out to her. She's a violist. But him specifically, like, I remember him being a little cocky, and he would just play, and it was so good. I'm like, you know what? You deserve every right to be.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be.
Yeah.
Because I recall when I was your age, I didn't see anybody else like you. Did I see the cockiness? For sure. Half the time was it misplaced? For sure. But not this time. For sure. At his age, he was like maybe 15.
Wow.
Listen, if he wanted to graduate early and go to school for performance, he absolutely could have gotten in. I don't know what he's doing now, because I no longer substitute there. But I hope he goes so far. I hope he goes so far. And it was wild to see, because I'm like, first of all, a whole family.
I love
set
when
of
a
siblings.
family. I love that. I love that. There are these three, the Figgins in the dance world. The Figgins. There are three of them. They're like choreographers and dancers, and all three of them, were in the top ballet and modern dance companies that are in this world. And I was like, how is it that all three of you just came out and was just like, boom,
We're doing this.
hello
we
world.
can do this.
Hello, right. And they did it. They are doing the thing, and they are part of that, larger representation that has helped me feel as if, you know, this whole thing's capable. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, wow, 3, period.
And it's like, wow, not one,
Not
even
two,
two,
but 3.
That's nuts. And I love seeing it every time. Every time it's a family, I'm like, oh wow. So it just literally ran in the family.
It ran in the family.
That's nuts.
It ran in the family. Seriously. Okay, moving into our third and final category. Before we wrap things up, representation in academia.
A little snippet of this.
Yeah. And we're gonna generally speak now about this because, you know, whether you're an artist or not, this applies to everyone.
Yeah.
And you know, Mars mentioned earlier about, you know, what would a life look like if I had a teacher that was teaching me science. You know, it wasn't you. Well, you weren't speaking about science specifically.
No.
But now moving into absolutely not. But now moving into like my example, like what if I had a teacher that was teaching me science or teaching me this thing that looked like me? Like, how would that have changed my perspective? Would I have liked science more? Would I have liked math more? Would I have liked dance more, music more? Like all of, you know, there's always these what if questions. And I wanted to speak about this experience that I had here at Columbia. So our program, I think we mentioned this in our first week, but our program, we are the only 2. We have like 60 something, 62?
62 now, initially 67.
Yeah. We got a lot.
Listen, the extra 5 people were not Black, so
yeah,
this
so
doesn't
it
make
don't
a difference
really
to
make a
us.
difference, right? But anyway, we got a whole lot of people in our program, and Mars and I are the only Black people. And faculty-wise, there's only one full-time Black faculty member too.
Love her.
Love her to death.
Truly.
She's amazing. She has my whole heart. I'm
We
like,
raved about her the first episode.
right, and I'm going to rave about her again.
Every time.
And she's going to be a special
y'all.
guest on here also, so you guys will get to meet her. But anyway, now I have made this clear shift from, okay, I don't just have to be a dancer. I can be a dancer and an educator. Like, I don't have to sacrifice my other wants and passions just for this art form. Like, there's a way to make them work. And you bringing up that example of
Melissa White.
Melissa, who is a violinist but also an educator, like,
yeah,
bringing that back around, like, there's a way to do both. And so now that I've given myself the opportunity to do both, I'm back in this position of like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
I haven't seen, how do I make the time? But also I haven't seen anybody that has done this. Like, I've never encountered a Black dancer, Black woman that's a dancer, educator, researcher, all of that stuff. And so I've been struggling thinking like, is this possible? And you're looking at me like you want to tell me something.
Yes. While not common, if I do direct you to someone, you likely already know who this is, Debbie Allen.
Oh yes, I know her.
Of course you know Debbie Allen. And her background, if I'm not mistaken, is predominantly in dance. And that's kind of how she climbed the ranks. And I think she might be a good example, if not one of the few, if not only examples of someone who has now, at least in her present life, I don't know if she's always done this, but, you know, having that balance between being a
dancer,
actor, performer, but also an educator. Like,
yeah, because she has her own school now.
She has her own school, and yeah, she has her own school, and like, you know, it's not like she just has instructors, choreographers, whatever, and you know, she has no place in it. No, like, I believe there's several, if not consistent videos of like her going into these, you know, rooms and giving them tips and helping them be like, no, this is how you need to do it.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. She's doing the thing. And that's,
she's doing
that is a really good example. But then this is when actually meeting somebody comes into play.
Yeah.
Because
what's the likelihood of you meeting Debbie Allen?
Right. I mean, like,
you definitely could.
I could definitely, like, I think I could find a way, you know?
1,000%.
But
not
it's
to say you
like,
can't get in that room.
Right.
But like right now in this moment.
Exactly.
Like, are you going to walk outside and see Debbie Allen and be like, hey girl?
Exactly. And even going back to my example of the whole little dance theater of Harlem thing that I, encountered in undergrad, like I had known that this company existed, but it wasn't until I actually saw them in person and got to talk with them. That was what changed my experience.
Exactly.
And it's like when you go to a concert, or you get a new artist, like say Frank Ocean, like you listen to their music and you know that they're real, obviously, because they're making music and you're listening to it right now. But then it's something about going to their actual concert and seeing them in person when you're like, oh my gosh, like this is a real person.
Like they actually do this thing in real life.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm needing now, specifically, with trying to figure out dance and education and all of that stuff. And so there was this event, there's this club here called Black Student Network, and they hosted an event where it was like meet the Black. It was a chance for the Black students to meet the Black faculty.
Yeah, I think it was just meet the Black faculty. Like I don't think it had a
specific name. Okay. Yeah. So we had this event and I went to it, and similar to the experience that I had when I met Dance Theater of Harlem, I had that same like transformative experience after I met the Black faculty, because then I realized, I was like, oh, okay, bet this is possible. Now that I'm actually meeting and getting to speak with people, and they're giving me like words of wisdom as to how to navigate this new journey. Now I don't feel the need to shy away from it or gaslight myself or like tear myself down and have these negative thoughts of thinking that it isn't possible, because it is possible, because I've seen it, I've encountered it. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, but I at least know that there's a way for this to manifest in my life, because it did in theirs.
Yeah. No, and that definitely, I remember seeing that happen kind of like in real time where it clicked for you.
You saw me. I took out the note. I took the sticky notes off the table.
And I just with a Sharpie.
Right. And Mars kept asking me, she was like, girl, do you want a pen? She was like, do you want a pen? I was like, no, I'm good.
It was like you were really in.
I was in it.
You were in it, because at that point you're like,
I was in
dang.
it.
No, but that was such a good experience, and getting to see them and hear them. Like, these are all people who have gone through the ranks of academia. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody up there had their PhD in something, which I personally love to see. And
two of them, one of them was an artist. The hip hop science.
Oh, yeah.
He like mixed rap and science. He was rapping about E=mc², y'all. Like
he freestyled for us, and that was nuts.
Right.
I was like, oh, wow. Like, he mixed his art, what clicked for him, because he even said that even in undergrad that he really just wanted to do, like, to be a rapper. And that's when it kind of clicked for him that he wanted to actually combine that with science, and he managed to do that. And he's now collaborated with other artists and other, I don't know if he collaborated with like other faculty, but he has mixed with like other professionals within STEM.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about that, so that's as much as you're getting from me. That's all you're going to get from me. But he managed to do that, and I was incredibly impressed, especially like with the place that like hip hop is starting to take in music ed. Hopefully it will continue to take a place in music education.
And I love that he's here.
He's here.
He's at Columbia Teachers College. Like,
which is nuts.
This is, even us being here is nuts. Like, wow.
But to have him, who's someone who has combined STEM and the arts, and that has been his focus for years. That's so unheard of. And so it was definitely inspiring to like hear him talk about that balance for himself, but then to also hear the others. And I think you had asked them, how do you balance, or how do you choose between the two? And they were like, you don't. If you can find a connection between the two of them, then that's what your focus is finding that connection and making it make sense.
Yeah.
Because it already makes sense to you. You found the connection. And if you found that connection, others have too. So now it's up to you to make sure others who don't understand it understand it. And that settled a lot for me. For one, it made me realize, oh, I have to do more school.
I have to do my school.
This is not my last degree.
Right.
And that's so upsetting, because money. That's so upsetting.
Right.
But like, that really, I definitely recall seeing that click so hard for you. And then all of a sudden, here you are, just scribbling away on your little notepad, on the little sticky notes that they had left out for us for a game.
Right, literally. And I'm like taking notes like as if we're in a classroom.
which was nuts.
Yeah.
But they all said so many great things, and a lot of it had to do with their identities a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, because if I'm being honest, if there were people who weren't black telling me those things, I would have just been like, okay, cool. You know, like it's still, you know, they were still imparting. I'm sure they still would have been imparting information that was like useful, but like
their identity plays a part
in it. You know, like having a black person say to another black person, like, hey, like this is possible, like
because I did it.
Exactly. And because we have that shared history, you know, of being black in the United States, like it's
different. It holds a different weight.
It's different, you know. It impacts you emotionally and almost spiritually, because they're connecting with a part of you that not everybody can connect with, you know. Exactly. That only people that look like you can understand.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people don't. I don't want to say non-black people don't understand this, because there are definitely black people who also don't understand this, but there's this idea that, you know, whoever's imparting the knowledge on you, their identity shouldn't matter. But their identities do matter, because there are aspects of our identities, especially within the U.S., that play a part in how we're able to navigate this world. And especially within academia, and as many of the systems in the U.S. are, they're not and were not designed for us. They were actually designed against us.
Right, exactly.
Being in those spaces.
So then when somebody
is saying these things to us, and they have this same shared aspect of our identity, and they're able to look at you and say, I did it.
And they were able to break through those barriers and find a space for themselves.
Yeah,
create a space for themselves.
Already weren't connected.
Right, in a world that, like you said, wasn't designed for us. Like, it's that more meaningful and impactful for people who are young individuals who are aspiring to do the same thing.
For sure.
Like Barack Obama being president, but
that was already nuts.
Kamala being VP,
despite
Supreme Court Justice Ketanji,
yeah, there's so many things.
Like, there's so many things. We keep what's it called? Being first. We haven't stopped being the first, you know,
for a lot of things.
And so it's like,
and that's not to praise these people for many controversial aspects of them, but the fact that, you know, there is some praise to give there for the identity that they have and being in the space that they're in,
right,
and breaking those barriers, being the first black president, being the first black, or having an aspect of blackness
and it's,
in your identity.
Yeah.
For first VP, and you're a woman.
Right.
Like
a woman, girl.
Bro.
A woman. Yeah.
That was a mini first. That was a lot of firsts right there.
And it's so funny, because like the whole thing of the first, like it's a good thing and a bad thing, because it's a bad thing because it shows like how much work we still have to do. Like, it's 2023 and we're just now having a first, you know? Yeah. But it's also like, I'm thankful that at least there is a first, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's definitely, it's eye-opening for a lot. But just the weight of having, just the weight of having that representation, even though it's in general and it's not exactly in the arts.
But it's still important in all fields.
For sure. And it's necessary. And so, yeah, just, you know, it's beneficial to talk about it. It's beneficial in letting, you know, others know as well, like, hey, you may be the only one that looks like you in your particular discipline. And whether you're in elementary school, middle school, high school, wherever, even undergrad, because as we've said, that's still very possible. You might be the only one that looks like you, but you're not the only one who's been in that position where you're the only one who looks like you.
Right, exactly.
From generation to generation.
There are a lot of people out there that can relate to you and connect with you, and then, you know, possibly help to build you up, you know, give you that support in this time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's worth talking about it and saying something about it, which is the point of the podcast.
Right, exactly.
But it's worth it. It's worth it to say it, because like we said the first episode, you know, we have all of these qualms, we have all of these feelings, and we can't, or we're not always given the opportunity to talk to each other about it, and choosing between those aspects of our identity plays a large part in it, and a large part in the representation that we see and that we are able to access ourselves.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
wrap things up now.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in.
This was I feel like this was a really good talking, good juicy. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but
there was a lot.
There
to
was
unpack.
a lot to unpack, and more that I feel like we thought.
Yeah,
you know, like we always plan it out. We have like notes that we write
sure.
down, and then we got away from it a little bit. But that's okay, because now
we got a little bit of taste.
We got a little taste of what's coming.
You may not see the rest of it this season. You'll probably see it next
season.
But, you know, just be thinking about kind of like, oh, they started to touch on this. And, you know, like Kara said before, please, if there's anything that you want us to talk about or you've thought about us talking about, don't hesitate to reach out to us, DM us, however, email us.
Yeah. Drop it in the comments.
All of the above. Like I said, this should be a collective of the artists, Black artists, and we want to hear what else others have been through, because we can only speak to
our experiences
as a dancer, as a musician. And I know that there's a level of representation within visual arts, within creative writing, within musical theater, and issues within there. But, you know, we can't all speak to that. The two of us specifically can't speak especially to them, but we do know that that's there.
So hit us up.
Let us know.
Let us know. But anyway, in the meantime, I hope everyone has an amazing day. Yeah,
have a great weekend, week, whatever you have coming. We hope you thrive.
We hope you thrive.
Take a deep breath. Enjoy.
Exactly. Well, all right, guys. We'll see you guys next time.
Toodles.
Bye.